I'm just back from an 815-mile ride on California's El Camino Real, and wow, did I have a good time. It's nothing like the Camino de Santiago in Spain. It has its own history, its own challenges, and its own rewards. In this video, I want to talk about those three things, plus give you my suggestions for how to make this work for you. And I think when it's all over, if you don't believe it already, you'll see why I call El Camino Real America's up and coming Camino. To understand El Camino Real, we'll need to have something of a history lesson. The western coast of North America was inhabited by many different Native American tribes, and in the 16th through 18th century, Spanish explorers came in contact with them as they explored off the coast. They called the region New Spain, and in order to consolidate control, they brought soldiers and priests. And the priests began to establish missions in order to convert the natives to Christianity and spread Western culture and Spanish control. The missions dotted the coastal areas of what we now call California. The native paths that connect the missions came to be called El Camino Real. In the 20th century, the California Automobile Club promoted the route as an automobile itinerary, and then in the 21st century, some leaders determined that maybe this would be the great American pilgrimage walk modeled after the Camino de Santiago in Spain. Like I say, this Camino has its own set of challenges, and to me, it's the challenges that contribute toward making this a great adventure. There's a lot of pavement on this route. Narrow roads, wide roads, old roads, new roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, even the shoulder of freeways sometimes. Why? Because the route goes through three of our country's largest metropolitan areas. The second problem, on the other hand, is long distances between services. This makes it hard to stage your walk. For instance, the space between King City and San Miguel is 65 miles, and there's only one tiny store at a crossroads in between. Third, the lack of specialized pilgrim accommodation means that you'll have to either stay in hotels and motels or camp. The result is either carrying heavy extra gear or spending about $100 a night on average. Fourth, although symbols of El Camino Real are everywhere, there's no signage for the walk whatsoever. That means that you'll have to rely on GPS and a guidebook. Fifth, there's a painful history between Native Americans and the missionaries themselves. And if you talk to Native American leaders today, they'll tell you their ambivalence, sometimes anger, sometimes appreciation for what happened to them in the 18th and 19th centuries in particular through the California missions. Those are some serious challenges, but in my opinion, they're outweighed by the outstanding rewards of this itinerary. First, the missions themselves are one of the attractions. From the outside, the architecture is charming. From the inside, spiritual. It's important to remember that many of the missions are reproductions from the 20th century, but still there's a modicum of peace and tranquility on the mission grounds themselves. Second, the scenery is amazing. Killer scenery, really. There are mountains and valleys with vast vistas. There are agricultural regions with green crops, and there is coastline after coastline after coastline. Third, El Camino Real has some really wonderful towns. Sonoma is a great example. Very relaxing place, and Petaluma takes special care to preserve its historical roots. San Francisco, what can you say? It's one of the world's great cities. I liked Santa Cruz also and its boardwalk. And then I found Monterey to be a really charming place, especially along the big pier with whale watching and shops and restaurants. Then there are little towns too, like King City, which to me was just super clean and very interesting. Then Paso Robles is a town Californians are discovering for its charm. Nothing can quite compare to Solvang, which is a little bit of Europe in Southern California. And Santa Barbara is considered one of California's most beautiful cities. Ventura is fabulous too. Ventura has a great walking center city. I love the beach towns along the coast, south of Ventura and north of San Diego. But then San Diego, there's so much to see in San Diego, and it's full of picturesque sights and a great place to enjoy. The fourth bit of good news is the California Mission Walker community. Thanks to the efforts of Butch Briery, who put together the first guidebook, there is a whole group of volunteers in various different towns along the way who are there to help pilgrims. And the relationships built with these volunteers are really wonderful. In my recent walk, I met many of them, and they would do anything to help each step of my way. That's so different from the Camino de Santiago or other pilgrimages, because it's these local people that make this walk possible and that fill it with joy. And here are some suggestions for how I think you can get the most out of your El Camino Real. El Camino Real is typically walked from south to north, the oldest mission in San Diego to the youngest mission at Sonoma. I want to suggest instead that you start at the youngest mission in Sonoma and walk or bike south to San Diego. Here's why. First, along the coastline, the prevailing winds are north to south, so it's actually easier to walk that direction. Secondly, I think it's more fulfilling to walk from the youngest to the oldest, meaning that you get richer and richer and deeper into the history of the missions. It's true the Golden Gate Bridge didn't exist in the time of the mission friars, but then again, neither did diesel ferries. So I suggest that the Golden Gate Bridge be on the itinerary for this walk It's a fabulous viewpoint, and I have to say a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I didn't find it scary, I found it really, really fun. Some of El Camino Real's distances are very long, so I suggest a bicycle as a good alternative. The great thing about the bike is that it eats up a lot of the distances. In fact, I sent my camping gear home because I didn't need it. I could connect it all with hotels, which greatly lightened my load. So I suggest thinking about this as, in addition to a walking itinerary, as a great bicycle trip too. A resource we often forget about, but that's right in front of our eyes, is the train. And more than half of the itinerary is connected by rail. So it's possible to pick up or leave off at spots along the way and just take the train. So I suggest it as a real resource for El Camino Real. El Camino Real has a lot going for it. It has challenge, it has adventure, but it also has rewards, the beauty of the scenery, and also the relationships with the California Mission Walk community. This is why I believe that El Camino Real is America's up and coming Camino.